Hey guys, Dread here. Just wanted to say thank you to all of you for the massive support. I'm now at 50 Spotify listeners and 8 subscribers on YouTube. Each and every one of you mean the world to me. Thank you to EXO at WyvernsWraith on Twitch for editing this video. Without further ado, here are 3 personal experiences that have happened to me. An inch from death. I was 19 when I got my license. My friend Juan and his family helped me so I was able to. It was very challenging because I wasn't able to take the course in high school like most teenagers, so I had to go to the DMV, talk with insurance, and also have a vehicle. You couldn't do one thing without the other, so the process was a big hassle. Luckily, my pastor was gracious enough to gift me a minivan, and I absolutely loved the thing. After that, I was able to take the driving course and use my van to start driving. Juan's family was also generous enough to pay for my first 6 months of insurance, and I was grateful to them. Things were going well, and I no longer had to figure out rides from their family or my friends, and I was able to drive on my own. I was nervous, but excited at the same time. That was until we went up the mountain. The mountain was a town over, and it was pretty treacherous. I didn't know that at the time, but Juan asked if I could take him for our first trip together. I of course said yes, because he was my friend after all, and in my heart, I owed it to his family. It was the least I could do after all they had done for me. As we were driving, we crossed over the bridge over top of the lake, and we could see all the little patches of ice, showing just how cold it was. I wasn't that nervous, and I was feeling pretty confident in my driving skills. As we went up the mountain, I could feel the strain of the engine, and I started to ask Juan if I should worry. He laughed a little and said, "Don't worry, my van can take it, I know yours can." He pushed my leg against the pedal and said, "There, keep it about there, and we'll be fine." After a bit of driving, we had made it almost to the peak. If you've ever been driving, you know what it's like to just zone out and focus on the hum of the engine and the feel of the road. That is great and all if you know the destination and have taken the drive before. But this was my first time, and as an inexperienced driver, it was going to cost me. The next thing I knew, I could hear Juan's voice in the back of my mind. That's when I snapped out of it and slammed on the brakes, noting the giant tree that was in the path in front of us. I stupidly veered the car to the right, the edge of my tire literally on the cliff side of the mountain road. Juan was reasonably upset and told me I had to pay more attention, but I honestly hadn't seen the tree in the road. Years later, I'd found out I needed glasses, and the way I'd been seeing the road added to the challenge of that night. We sat there in stunned silence, and I slowly backed my van up a little so we weren't so close to death. Juan said everything was okay and he wasn't mad, but I was very much shaken up. I could have killed us both, so easily, and he acted like it was nothing. I know now that it was the adrenaline talking for him, and he actually was freaked out, but trying to calm me down. We had no service, but a truck came in behind us and saw what was happening. We both left the van to talk to the woman driving, and luckily, she had a different cell phone carrier than we did, so she called emergency services to let them know what happened. And they sent a man out that got the tree cleared up from the road, and he sent us on our way. After that, we listened to music, not really saying much to each other on the drive until we got home, and let his parents know what all happened. They weren't mad. They just berated Juan for asking me to drive him when he knew just how bad the conditions were. In the end, we were all okay, and I look back at it because although we had that bad instance, the overall time was pretty nice. Locked out of the bathroom. To get you started on my story, I need to explain a few things. For starters, my roommate and I live in a small farmhouse, and we also have no curtains on any of our windows. We've only been living together for about 1 month. We've never had an experience like this before. It was late one night when Dan and I were coming home from work. We were both really tired, and we just wanted to take showers before going to bed. I decided to go to the bathroom first, because I knew he'd want to take a shower before we had to get in bed, so he was preparing his clothes for in the morning. I went to the bathroom door and tried to open it, but it was locked. Now, our bathroom can only be locked from inside the bathroom, and it doesn't have a keyhole from the outside. I was freaking out because I knew we both had work the next day. I tried to hide the fact that I couldn't open the door, but soon Dan said, "What's the holdup? We need to go to bed soon." I quickly explained the situation, and he remembered we had a window that we could try and reach from the outside. He wanted to use his car as a boost to get inside because our farmhouse was on a slope. With it being so close to Christmas, the snow was pretty hard-packed, so when he tried to pull his car around, it was just tearing up the grass. I tried pushing it while he steered, but it didn't do anything to help, and I moved out of the way because mud was spitting all over my clothes from the tires. I watched as he went back on the paved driveway, where it looped around, and tried to think about our options. I went back inside and tossed off the dirty clothes, putting on new ones. I saw him pull the car to its original spot, and I told him my idea. Once back outside, he got on my shoulders to try and pry open the window, but to no avail. I made him get off, and I was about to try myself. When I got on his shoulders, ready to open the window, I heard the neighbors' horses start screaming and making a lot of noise as they bucked up in the air. I glanced over and saw a glimmer of moonlight shining off a pair of glasses. Standing next to the other side of the fence was a bald, tall man, looking like he was in his late 40s. I yelled at Dan to run and jumped off of him as we practically trampled each other getting inside and locking the door behind us. We turned off all the lights and hid just inside our bedroom door. The man yelled, "I know you boys are in there." He soon started slamming his body against the door repeatedly. It was a small house, and it wasn't built very well. I knew it wouldn't be long before the door gave way. We snuck over to the kitchen, hiding amongst the shadows, and we both grabbed a kitchen knife, preparing for the worst. As soon as I thought the door was going to give in, everything went quiet. We both sat motionless for about 20 minutes, not daring to move. When we got up, we looked outside, trying to find any trace of the man. After not finding anything, we gave up and went to bed. But we didn't get a lot of sleep that night. The next morning, we contacted our landlord, telling him what had happened as he changed the lock on the bathroom door. He stated that he was sorry we had to go through something like that, and he even offered to help out with any damages. Luckily, we didn't have anything broken, but when we got outside, we could see the extent of the damage from his tires tearing apart the yard. I thought our landlord would be furious, but, considering the circumstances, that was the least of our problems. I was glad when I finally moved out and got away from that place, and when I moved in with my brother, I was just thankful we had curtains. It may sound stupid, but they always make me feel more secure. If you guys like these stories so far, make sure to like and subscribe to keep up with me. I have a few more I'd like to put in, but I also have a backlog of things that I know you guys want to hear. I really appreciate Branflaked for commenting, asking me to do some astronaut and outer space stories that you guys will see next week. Anyway, let's get back to it. It pays to be nice. So, when I was between the ages of 18 and 23, I worked at a local grocery store as a bagger, and eventually worked my way up until I was working in the pharmacy. I have a lot of stories, so if you like this one, I'll tell more of all the different job titles I had. This story was when I had just started to upgrade from a bagger and train as a cashier. While in the process, I took over the custodian job on Sundays and Mondays, while the usual woman had her days off. Everyone seemed to like me, and they even called me Sunshine, because I was told I always had a bright attitude that cheered everyone up when I was around. All the workers from every department knew who I was and were always happy to see me. It was a crappy job with little pay, but seeing other people happy made it worthwhile to me. To get started on that night, in our grocery store, we also had a Starbucks. I didn't have a lot of money, but I get water every once in a while, and I chat with the girls that worked there while they made other people's drinks. We had a high turnover rate, so I always saw new faces, but I treat everyone the same, with a smile. Flash forward to one night, when I had just taken in all the garbage from the gas station out front, and the trash from all around the store. Suddenly, I was grabbed by a girl I'd never met before, but she had a Starbucks apron on, so I figured she was a new hire. She told me, "Dredd, I need you to hide me, please." I don't know how she knew my name, but it sounded very urgent, so I pushed open the double doors that led to the back of the store, where I was going to dump the trash anyway. It was where we kept overstock, where new pallets came in, and it had a door to the garbage chute for the massive dumpster out back. "Is there any way that you can hold on to that trash?" she asked me. At this point, I was confused. and I asked her to fill me in. There's this old man out there, and he's been following me. I was taking our trash out when I noticed him coming up behind me. I didn't think much of it at first, but after dumping the trash in the chute, I went to the bathroom and he was still standing there. The look in her eyes has burned into my head to this day. She was on the brink of tears. Anyway, I helped take her with me to the other side of the store that had a matching set of double doors and checked to see if the coast was clear. She clung onto my right arm for dear life the entire time. I asked her to let go, and she nodded at me. I stepped out, and there he was. I had always noticed him around the store because he wore a green raincoat and a faded red hat that was so old it was practically pink. He looked at me, and I could tell he knew what I was doing, trying to protect that girl. I backed away into the safety of the back room and told her what I saw. He knew what we were doing, so I let her know, and she held my arm once more. I told her we just needed to continue back to where we had started, and after doing so, I grabbed one of the metal poles that we use in case the garbage bag is too full and won't slide down the chute. I called Dante. He was our co-manager at the time, and he is still someone I look up to today. After a few rings, I got him on his personal cell number. He asked, "Hello? This better be important. Why didn't you just call the front of the store?" I told him our situation, and he got quiet. "Okay, Dredd. I need you guys to stay where you are, and I'll see what I can do." He's ex-military, so I knew we would be okay if things got ugly. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, he came through the doors and explained what happened. The old guy got fed up with us staying there, so we went back to where the Starbucks goals were and started taking pictures of them. Dante knew who I was talking about when I called, so that's why he hung up suddenly and went into action. We just couldn't believe that someone could be so horrible. Most of the girls working were between 16 to 18. Dante kicked the guy out of the store after making sure he deleted the photos off of his phone. We were told we could go home early to calm down and rest. As we walked to the front of the store, I finally turned and looked at the girl's name tag so I could properly introduce myself. "Hi, Grace. How did you know who I was?" She let me know it was her first day, that she had already heard a lot about me. She started crying on my shoulder and thanking me. She was still clinging on to me just in case. "Dredd, I was so happy that you came along, because I didn't know what to do. I'm only 16, and I don't know anybody here except my Starbucks manager. I was going to call 911, but I left my phone in the kiosk, so when you came along, it was such a relief. I never really thought that I'd ever get caught up in something like this, but I'm glad I'm known well enough that I could be there for someone in need." We stayed friends for the remainder of her time working at our store until she got a new job, and I always made sure to keep an eye out for him and made sure he never went near another girl again. Well, you've reached the end. It's been nice talking to you, my friend. Are you going to view once more, or see what else I have in store?